Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show live. We're chatting all things Leeds United. I'm Stephen Brown, and with me, as ever, to discuss the shenanigans at Ellen Road is Jayson Booker. Mr. Booker.
I'm all right, my friend. Just another day in the Leeds United story, isn't it, at the moment? The crazy thing is, it's gone quiet, but it feels like it's also just surrounds you. Like it's more engrossing and absorbing than ever. Like I've been looking forward to having no football for a period of time. If anything, it feels like this is worse. Like
Yeah,
so.
it's so that is absolutely spot on because I've tried to not listen to stuff, read stuff, look at stuff. But at the same time, I'm constantly refreshing Twitter for updates on managers and all this kind of things. And it's just, like you say, it envelops you, doesn't it? You just can't help but just be aware of what is going on. Please pop a like on the video if you're watching. Welcome along as well. Get your comments in about this manager search because it is just rumbling on and on.
The screen just made me laugh and build up then straight away. Like, could it be any more of a circus? But we're not on our own. I will just say that. Like,
I like that the 49ers are taking the time. I'm glad it's not just a kind of desperate, rash decision. We'll get into kind of the particular names that have been brought up. Yesterday, I've got to admit, knocked me for six because I went to bed Sunday night hearing that Iriola was linked with Leeds again. It came back into the picture, it came on the betting, and then my hopes were completely destroyed. Like literally the next day, I was like waiting for updates on it. And then Bournemouth sack. Who is it? What was it?
Gary O'Neill.
Gary O'Neill. And then literally an hour later or something, it was Iriola was announced, and I was just like, oh no. And then I'm reading all the stuff about Iriola and what he's done with Rayo Vallecano, the style of football, and I'm just like, oh.
It shows you a couple of things though, doesn't it? It shows you how unreliable some of the information we get fed can be. Yeah. It shows you, odds and all this kind of thing. Yeah. I always kind of get quite driven by it, but how much does it actually mean? I bet Iriola, like once Gary O'Neill was sacked, for the hour before Iriola got, even spoken about, I bet it weren't anywhere near favourite for that job. It'd have been, the standard names and stuff. So, yeah, it's really interesting. And that will, the Iriola kind of link on Sunday night will have been somebody within Ellen Road, probably spoken to somebody that they know who's then gone and put a massive bet on it that's then driven the odds through the roof. It's crazy. I mean, I can't believe that Graham Potter's still 6-1 third favourite. Like, it's just, it's wild at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at the candidates as well, I mean, Iriola was my kind of top tier. My kind of dream hope, him and Gallardo are like the top two. I was like, could a miracle happen? Could another? I think what skewers it is the fact that we got Bielsa them years ago. I think that really
it definitely sets us up.
Really, it's really warping what
100%, 100%. And I think when we come back to the discussion of I'm not that bothered about going down and all that. Well, just know that we would have been sat with Iriola as our manager right now. I'm almost certain of that. He would have been, or Rodgers. I think they'd have both probably been 100%. Up for the job in the Premier League with no Radrizzani. Yet we're fishing in the market that we're fishing in for managers. And I mean, some of that just sends me over the edge as well. Like some of the stuff that you read, I mean, I'm sure that we're going to get into it, but the way that people look at Patrick Vieira has been a great option, but then look at Daniel Farke as another example as being below us. Like, what planet are you on? Like, but it's the headspace that people are in because, and I've seen Leeds fans going mad about Gary O'Neill being sacked, and also putting Gary O'Neill forward as a potential for us. Like, again, what planet are you on? Like, this what Bournemouth have done is exactly what they should have done. They've not seen Gary O'Neill as the future of the club, and that's understandable. And they've decided to get rid of him and gone in a completely different direction. It's what we should have done with Jesse Marsh 12 months ago.
Yeah,
because it was clear to a lot of fans that he weren't going to be right going into that second season, but he kept us up and it's vibes and all this, so we kept him anyway.
sentimentality FC, isn't it? But I mean, for me, for Bournemouth, if you're a Bournemouth fan now, you're absolutely buzzing because you look at Bournemouth and you go, right, how are we going to elevate ourselves? How are we going to get out of the mire? Gary O'Neill would have been sacked within 2 months.
It would have been
season. Of course, he would have.
Yeah.
Now they've got a manager who's 40 years of age. Is absolutely. Like I was reading a bit about what he did at Rayo Vallecano, and it's a cracking job that he's done.
Yeah,
I've not watched them play. I'm not going to pretend I've sat here and watched loads of Rayo games. I haven't, but just from all the testimonials about it, you think that is such a coup for Bournemouth to get in their position, the size of their club. And you're absolutely right. If we hadn't have been relegated, he would have absolutely been the man who could have been in that chair.
I think so.
For Leeds and relegation. Thanks a lot. Do you know what I mean? That's what you pay.
It's true. The likeness that I've heard in terms of like comparison is Thomas Frank at Brentford in terms of the scope of job that he's done. Not in terms of style of football, but bringing a championship club up, solidifying them, keeping them in that kind of position, competing way above the weight. It's similar. For those that don't know, because if you don't watch La Liga, Rayo Vallecano could be top 6 club for all all they know. So, but they're not. They're a small club. I think the average attendance is around 20,000, something like that. So
16th highest wage bill in the Liga as well. So,
should be in and around relegation every year.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gregory, thanks for your comment here. I think this is spot on. It feels if your team is in the Premier League, you're now a big club. I mean, that's really the power of the Premier League, isn't it? And really, I think Leeds getting relegated, we're going to feel that. It's going to impact so many 100%. Aspects of it.
We mentioned it the other week, didn't we? I can't remember if it were on the group discussion with everybody or maybe the stream before, but the days of, Leeds United being in the Championship and being considered a big club are kind of gone. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. Brentford and Brighton and a couple of others have shown that if you've got the foundations right off the pitch and you're structured and you're organised, you've got the right manager and you recruit the right players, it doesn't matter. This size thing doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're playing in front of 40,000 and you're the 3rd biggest city in the country. It literally doesn't matter. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Paul, thanks for coming. We'll see how Bournemouth do.
I'm not sure about Rayo Vallecano having a bad season, Paul.
They
were challenging for top 4, like up until February, I think it was. And then they did have a bit of a dip and they finished 11th. But bear in mind, like as Brown has just said, this is a club that's got the 16th biggest wage bill in La Liga, which is like bottom, the bottom 4 in the league. They've only just gone up the season. They've been in La Liga for two seasons this season. So, finishing, well, would you have taken finishing 11th in the Premier League?
Exactly.
I would have done.
Gail, we can't be a big club because no one seems to want to manage us. I know it does. It feels now that let's just get to it. Let's get to these managerial candidates. And the big one that's come out today that has no doubt sent shivers down your spine is Patrick Vieira. It's never really gone away as the Patrick Vieira one. It's kind of just been lurking in the background, but it seems to have jumped up. I'm just looking at some betting odds now, and his second favourite, on Sky Bet. Patrick Vieira, Jason, what is it about him that you just immediately think we can't get this guy, or this is not what you want?
Again, I just think, Patrick Vieira is one of the best midfielders I've ever seen. Like, he's a fantastic player. Frank Lampard was one of the best attacking midfielders I've ever seen. Steven Gerrard, likewise, all fantastic players. And we've seen with all 3 of them that they've gone into clubs and had immediate reactions because of the name that they are. But once that wears off and the players become used to what they're hearing every day and who they're hearing it from, all they are left with is what used to be a good player. That tactically they are not. We've seen it from what they've delivered on the pitch. All of them, tactically, they're not great managers. No. And what then you are left with is just a voice. So for me, Vieira is living still purely on the name. He did okay in MLS for a period of time, but again, the MLS is it's no yardstick.
Him and Jesse Marsh fighting it out.
Yeah,
oh my God, at New York.
Exactly. And then he goes over to Ligue 1 and bombs and gets sacked. I was never like, I remember this having debates with people on Twitter about Vieira and the comparison with Hodgson. And the facts are, these are facts. I'm not making this up. He finished with 1 point better than Hodgson did the season before, and it was considered that Hodgson had done a bad job and he should have been relieved of his duties. He finished with 1 point more. Now, they say he was playing a better brand of football. I don't really agree with that. There was never a time where I watched Palace under Vieira and thought, this is so entertaining to watch. Yeah. And then when he started finding it hard in the second season, he reverted to such a negative brand of football that they ended up going 5 games in that winless run of 12 without a shot on target. Yeah. Like, that is wild. Like, when you think about it logically, especially when you think about the players that they've got, you know, Zaha, Eze, Elise, they've got some real talent in that squad. You know, so for me, it's just an absolute no-no. Like, don't get me wrong, I reckon he could come in and probably be ahead of the project for a period of time. I reckon he could attract some players, and I reckon initially we'd probably see us, you know, do okay. But for me, it's just an absolute no-no. Yeah, it's an absolute no-no.
I think he's got that kind of former player benefit, former Premier League favourite benefit, where they do one slightly good thing and it's blown out of all proportion. Like Frank Lampard at Derby, what a job he did at Derby, you know.
Context it, Browner.
Yeah, and I just think, they seem to can't wait to kind of praise them to the hill when it's a former big time player who does well.
100%, and it's even worse when they're English. The English bias is wild. I mean, Lampard gets like heralded for doing this fantastic job with Derby. He took Derby from 5th to 6th. They finished 6th, and they weren't great. And not only that, but the players that they had out on the pitch, Mason Mount, Tomori, like, you know, Harry Wilson, Lawrence, like they had unreal players in that squad, and they still didn't go up, even via the playoffs. So for me, like, how he ended up in that Chelsea job is just, and I think, and I mean, I think he fell a little bit lucky in that he was kind of given a get out of jail free clause in the first season because they couldn't buy anybody. So the only option that they had was to go with the youth. And thankfully for him, the youth were fantastic. And he was able to probably give it rah-rah and say, look, it's us against the world. This is your opportunity to make it as Premier League top-level footballers. And he could ride off that for a period of time. Yeah. And then he got found out in the second season because, again, they get used to him. And look at what... The same goes at Everton, you know? So... Yeah, I'm rambling about these two. But I think all three of them are in the same boat. I think Stevie G, you know, he did a good job at Rangers, but how much of that was in the SPL?
He doesn't coach. He doesn't do the training ground work.
Well, that's it. Since Michael Beale's gone.
I'm like, what is this? Yeah. It's like, what did you actually do then?
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
It's just brought the name in it, you know, by Gerrard, you know, that's the impression it gives, you know, when it's kind of, you know, they've gone in and it's lost your coach and then suddenly they don't know how to win a game of football again. So, yeah, Gerrard, absolutely in the same boat. I don't want to see Gerrard. I've got to say, I've been really uninspired by the supposed shortlist for the interviews, because apparently the interviews are ongoing at the moment. And I agree with you. I think we've got to take it with a pinch of salt about what we're hearing and what's actually going on. But if you're looking at Gerrard, I mean, Parker, let's get to Parker as well.
I think we have a bit of a disagreement in this because I think your expectations are a little bit higher than mine. Like my understandings of where we are a championship club and we can't attract the managers where their stocks are high. We just can't, because anybody that's kind of got a high stock is going to attract a Premier League job or they'll wait for one. So why, you know, like, I don't want Michael Carrick. I've spoken about Michael Carrick before, but Michael Carrick's a good example where his stock's maybe a bit higher than Scott Parker. Let's just say as an example right now. But why would he leave Middlesbrough with Gibson, who's a fantastic chairman, structure and organisation at Middlesbrough? He's a Middlesbrough boy, by the way. He's from that neck of the woods. And if he does well in the first few months of this season, he'll get a Premier League job anyway. You know, let's say, I don't know, Fulham. As an example, if Middlesbrough are top 6 and Fulham sack Silva, they'd look at a Michael Carrick. Why would Michael Carrick take the risk of coming to Leeds, given the position that we're in? He wouldn't. So we're left in a situation where we are going to be scrapping around people that need to rebuild. I don't want Scott Parker either, but with the limited options that we've potentially got, who are we going to honestly, realistically attract that's better?
I just think what I'd like to see is more creative options. I'm not necessarily saying we're going to get people whose stock is high currently, but I'd like to see some more inventive names on there. Almost
Raul?
like, oh well, yeah. Do you know? I was just going to come to that. Yeah, I was just saying that as well. Yeah, I mean, it's risky. Obviously, if you go down that line, company at Burnley, nobody knew that it was going to work out that way. But I mean, to be my number one choice is Farke. I think because of the style of football and what he's got on his resume. Although it's still, it's a bit kind of safe somehow, I think. But I don't know. I thought there'd be a few more creative ones, kind of, some surprise ones on there, some that a bit left field, but that could work. Almost similar to what Leicester have done with their choice.
Was Maresca in the running? I mean, again, we're saying that there isn't creative options, but we're talking about what's in the bookies. We're talking about what the odds have got. So we don't know. We might not know. I have a feeling, I mean, somebody mentioned it. I think it could well be a left field choice that we've not even heard of. I do. I have a feeling that could be the case. Just because of how quiet it's actually been. And the appointment of
Nick
Hammond, yeah. It came out of nowhere. Nobody had picked up on that. So it just makes me think, is it going to be that, we get somebody dropped on us that we've not heard of? And that comes with its unknowns too. Like, I just can't get on board with this kind of turning your nose up at Daniel Farke. Like, no. I think it's because he wears that stupid coat. He's got a bit of a weird, annoying voice. He was Norwich's manager. Like, I think it's all that stuff that makes Leeds fans a bit turned off it. But this guy's won the championship twice, and we need to forget. I had this debate with somebody earlier. We need to get rid of this. Yeah, but he's not Premier League. Like, even I've had to kind of leave that a little bit, because right now this is what we need now. Look at what the situation is with Bournemouth as a great example of what you sometimes have to do. You have to be brutal. I heard Simon Jordan talking about it earlier, and when they got promoted under Ian Dowie, he said that one of the biggest mistakes he made was not just sacking him in the summer before the league even started, because he said that he didn't have the options. I think truthfully, he probably was worried about the reaction and promoted manager, and then they sack him. I get it. But he said that he wished he'd have had the kind of corners to do it. And it makes a lot of sense. Like, he didn't think that Dowie had the capabilities to manage them in the Premier League, and he didn't. So he should have got rid of him. So, yeah, I think we just need to get on board with for now.
Is a part of you, though, that's kind of hoping that something exciting from left field comes into this? Or are you more just get Farke and get it done?
I've probably caught somewhere in the middle. Like, we all like that excitement. Like, when Bielsa dropped, if you're a hardened fan, you knew who Bielsa was, and you knew a bit about his reputation. But the facts are, most people didn't have a clue who we were. They'd have known him as the madman that left Lazio after 3 days or whatever. Like, so yeah, there is something exciting about the unknown. So I get it. I understand the attraction to it. For me, I will give 100% support to whoever comes in. Yeah. I will have my reservations if it's not one of the names that I agree with, as I've discussed. Scott Parker would put in that category. Vieira would put in that category. And I think all my reasons for feeling that way would be totally and utterly valid. But I also then remember my own argument in that, we are fishing in a certain pool. So if we have, it's tough. We're not going to get the perfect option. It's either going to be a risk that's yet to achieve anything, that's yet to really be known for anything like Raul, or it's going to be somebody that's failed somewhere else that now we're giving them another chance.
The disabled team, thanks for coming in. If Solskjaer comes to Leeds, I'm supporting Bradford Park Avenue. There you go, Lewis. If you're watching, you'll be happy with that. Solskjaer, Jesus Christ almighty. Nah. Definitely not. Wouldn't be on board with that one. Absolutely not. Carlos Corberán, it looks like he's out of the running. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. Not quite sure why that's not broken down. Like I say, I must say this is all speculation. It is. But if we're to take it at face value, Carlos Corberán out of the running now, I wouldn't have minded Corberán. I'd have been okay with that. I'd have been much better about that than, say, a Parker or a Gerrard.
100%. 100%. I would put Corberán in the same pocket as Darren Moore, because I think they both have shown capabilities. Stop laughing at me.
Not you, just the comment that's just dropped in. I'll flash it up in a minute.
They've shown capabilities to be able to deal with big clubs, working under pressure, working under stressful environments with difficult board situations. We're nothing to say that our situation is going to be difficult once it gets going, but I would imagine there's going to be nuances that a manager has to put up with for a period of time, surely, until they learn, the 49ers learn properly how to run this club on their own.
Yeah.
I think either of them would be good choices given the pool of managers that we're going to be able to look into again. But yeah, I think if I had to say, right, yeah, let's go with it, I get to make the decision. I would probably give it realistic, obviously, not Iriola, the others that have gone. I would give it to Farke, just because I think, everywhere he's gone, he's shown that he's capable. There was a reason that Norwich didn't sack him season 1 as well. I always think that's an interesting one. They obviously had faith in him and the style of play. They didn't invest very much. And I'm not, right now, I'm not worried about the Premier League. I don't think there is an available manager that's better qualified to take over us right now than Daniel Farke. Really? In terms of what he's got on paper for Championship football. And right now, that's all I care about, because that's where we are. There's no point us thinking about, he's no good in the Premier League. We're not in the Premier League. So
No, absolutely not. This was a comment I was chuckling at. Chris Spell. Shame Huddersfield Town have the man you need. Chris.
It's not easy, Chris.
Channel contributor.
We had him before.
Trolling us, I think, is that guy. Well, I'll get him booted if he pipes up again, I think, yeah.
Paul's comment at the bottom, just before we move on. Like, you know what? You can have your opinions on Moore. Like, I think he's a good guy, and I think if I quickly break it down to you, it was 4th when he got sacked at West Brom, a few points behind Bielsa, and was sacked completely out of order. If you look back at it, it was sacked at the wrong time. They said that he should have been in the top 2. Well, the club ended up going further down after they sacked him. I can't remember if they got playoffs or not. I think it's when they brought Bilic in. Anyway, it don't matter. They ended up not getting promoted that season anyway. He then went to Sheffield Wednesday, and he only finished 3rd, but he finished 3rd with the highest points total on record to not get promoted automatically. He then overturned a 4-0 deficit after the first semi-final. Like, as a manager, you have to look at these moments. Yeah, should they have been 4-0 down? No, sure. But he managed to set up a team and galvanise the team so much that they believed they could come back and win that game. And they did. That, I think, shows something. And he's dealt with 2 clubs which have got their own basket cases themselves. Both big clubs. We like to consider ourselves as miles bigger than Sheffield Wednesday and West Brom. We are. But in terms of the footballing pyramid and where we are right now, we're bigger than them. But he's evidence that he's able to deal with that kind of situation, that kind of club, and that kind of fan base. And then and Corberán, I mean, he's overrated by Leeds fans. I don't think that's true. The job that he did at Huddersfield was incredible. To keep them up the first season, and then to take them from where they were up into playoff contention, going to the final. There were one real dodgy decision against Forest away from winning that game. They should have had a penalty before they ended up losing that game. Yeah. So he could have taken them up that season. And then look at where they were until Warnock came in with not the same squad, but a lot of the same names. So again, what are you expecting? Are you expecting us to go out and attract Marco Silva, Thomas Frank, whoever? We're not a Premier League team. We're not going to attract them.
I definitely think with Corberán, I would be more than happy if Corberán got it. I feel like with Moore, I feel like he's season 4 or 5 and we're still in the Championship. I feel he is too low stock.
Who's that? Sorry, Moore.
Moore. Yeah, I feel like he is not enough
Just on the point, so he put there as well, did Paul, didn't he, go to Doncaster? So I heard earlier he had a 47% win rate at West Brom. I think it was 44% win rate at Doncaster and a 53% win rate at Sheffield Wednesday. So, like, you're not talking about a manager that doesn't know how to win games. Again, I can take an opinion on, I don't want him, or he's not the right, or there's better candidates. I hate that. Yeah. I'm not saying that they're in better candidates. But in terms of what is a viable option for us, and to say no is way below Leeds United, it's just not correct. It's just not correct.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It does make me question it, and I think we're at that level where I'm just hoping, for God's sake, that we can get straight back up, because then just forget all this nonsense. Digler, good point here, mate. Thank you. Yeah, if managers had to be Prem proven to qualify for a job, there'd literally be no managers getting jobs in the Premier or anywhere else. Yeah, absolutely.
Good point.
Michael Brown, after Moore was sacked at WBA, went to Doncaster, who were in the top half of the league when he left them for Sheffield Wednesday in the Championship. Oh, Richo, mate, you're killing us off here, but thanks for jumping in. Everton want to take 4 players from Leeds: Harrison, Nonto, Somerville, Adams. Lovely. Just absolutely kill us off then.
Everton are not going to get them. They ain't got a chance, to be honest.
And then what a mess again. I think it's going to be another relegation battle for them, isn't it? No, it's fascinating to see where Leeds are pitched at. I mean, for me, there's so much pressure on this season, because it really does feel like probably our best chance of getting back to the Holy Grail of the Premier League is actually going up immediately at the first time of asking. Do you agree with that? I mean, you don't want to be getting settled in the Championship again, do we?
No. I think, we've got the best opportunity to keep Prem players in the ones that we've already got that we obviously want to keep with some experience. You would hope that after, a bit of a reset, that some of them would be able to realign themselves and show some Premier League quality in the Championship, which you would hope would then, result in a promotion fight of some sort. Parachute payments and the backing that we've got at the first time of asking, you'd hope that it would recruit players that would be then able again to get us back promoted. And I think it's always easier at the first time of asking than when you get stuck and labelled in that division again. So, yeah, 100%, I understand how important this summer is. I think the problem that we've got at the moment is we're caught in this limbo land where we want to get the right man and we want to do things right, which sometimes take time. But then we also have got a hurry on in that we need to get this done sharpish, because I think the fixtures are out tomorrow. Pre-season starts in 2 weeks, I think. I mean, the article that came out earlier about how the 49ers waited 60 days or something and interviewed 23 different managers over in the NFL kind of made me worry a little bit. Like, I was like, holy shit, are we going to start the season with no manager, no coaches? Like, what's going to happen? Yeah. I mean, it can't, because football don't work the same as the NFL does. So I'm absolutely convinced that we will get a manager in place this week. And I think the dominoes will start to fall quite quickly. I just have no idea who it's going to be. I literally could not. I wouldn't even be confident betting on Farke right now. We've not seen anything to really say, yeah, that is definitely the man, other than the links put together with the director of football. But even he might not be coming yet. So I honestly don't have a clue.
What do you think about former Real Madrid legend Raul then coming in? I mean, something like that. It's the thing is, how do you even analyze it? I think he's in charge of Real Madrid C or something. It's like, how would we even?
The one thing I will say about this is that Real Madrid are no mugs, and they usually get it right. Zidane was the Castilla manager before he became the first team manager. I don't know if you know that, but he was. That was his progression. They make quite a habit of doing this, and it tends to be that the Castilla manager will then go on to get a bigger job or even the top job at Real Madrid. So I wouldn't be imagine having Raul on your touchline. I mean, that's pretty wild, isn't it? So I'd be all for it. I've seen people comparing it with Eta Karanka. I don't think it's anything like that. The times are different and whatnot. So I'd be excited by it. I don't think you could not be excited by it. But in terms of what we would actually get, there's absolutely no way of even knowing. You can't even say, I've watched 10 matches of Castilla playing and this is the way that he plays and this is what you're going to get, because it's not real. Like it's under 21s football. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But I'd be excited by it. How could you not be excited by it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fascinating because I think, like you say, this is going to be the week. I think something will definitely happen in place this week. From the kind of little glimpses we've had of what the 49ers have done, they've been in charge a couple of weeks now. There's very little to go on. Obviously, communication's not loads because they're not officially all being cleared, etc., etc. But they got Nick Hammond in really quickly. I love that, to be honest. I really like that there were no leaks about it. It's a guy with a good pedigree who, if he comes in and has an amazing transfer window, that really could be make or break. Because look how poor the recruitment's been at the club generally, for, previous to that.
I think it shows a real intent. They've put him on a 4-month contract or whatever to October. They don't do that without a real intention of the situation. They'll be paying him a fortune, by the way. A man like that with the credentials that he's got doesn't just take a 3-month secondment position for a normal director of football wage. He'll be on mega bucks, so he'll have a big job to do. And then I would imagine he's probably going to pass over to Stuart Webber. We don't know that for certain. We're putting 2 and 2 together. We might be getting 5, but I think it's nice. I just think because we have been so used to hearing so much, to hear nothing at all. While I probably understand the sentiment of it, and it's probably the best way to do business, we've said this ourselves together.
Yeah,
it makes us feel really unsure as to what the hell's going on, and we understand that time is pressing. But I did say this to you earlier. Southampton have not even fully employed Russell Martin yet. I don't think it's been fully confirmed because they're waiting for them to be considered championship clubs, so they don't have to pay Swansea's buyout clause or something. It's technicality, basically. If they're a registered Premier League team, which they still are currently, apparently, they have to pay £3 million, let's just say, to Swansea. But if they're a championship club, they don't. Right. So it's something to do with that. And Maresca's only just gone in 2 days ago at Leicester. So all 3 of us are in this situation. Yeah, we're taking a couple of days longer. Hopefully it won't be any more than a week. And we just have to try and see it from the outside looking in and not be so emotionally invested in it, which I know is hard. Like we all do it. So I want the manager in as well, but I'd rather it be the right guy.
Yeah. Is the right guy short-term or long-term at this point? Are you bothered about a long-term kind of appointment, or are you just thinking Premier League? Even if it was a Farke and then you get to the Premier League and you go, okay, see ya. Because do you have to be that ruthless now?
I think you do, mate. I mean, football's different, innit? We all love the romantic side of football, where you have a manager and he stays forever, and but it just doesn't happen. You take away Ferguson and Wenger, and the amount of managers that see beyond 4 years is so minimal. Minimal. You get a shelf life of probably 3 good seasons before it starts to turn sour, because players are different. They react to things different. And the great thing that we might not want to say this, but Ferguson was so fantastic at moving players on at the right time. That's why Pep Guardiola's got longevity as well, because he's particularly good at it. Cancelo is one of the best fullbacks in the world. He didn't like something that Pep were doing. Right, oh, you're gone. That's it. You don't try. You're not staying here to turn the other apple sour. You're gone. And, that's why managers, because player power is so strong, managers don't last like they used to do. So I think to try and say, Bielsa were never long-term. Not really. The style is long-term. The ideology of the way that you want the club to play and the players that you recruit for within that should be long-term. And that's what we thought we were getting when we had Bielsa into the next manager. We all knew Bielsa were going to leave at some point. He was 62 when he took over.
Yeah.
It was never going to stay for 10 years. It just was never. He only signed a 1-year deal at a time to start with. So it was never going to stay, super long term. So I don't think you can recruit for that. I think if you recruit a manager that plays a style and then you start recruiting players that play within that style as well, if the manager then moves on, i.e. Graham Potter and De Zerbi, you can deal with a manager loss because the players are then all they play the same style as the new manager that comes in. Yeah. So for me, it is short term promotion, can motivate players, and plays the style that the 49ers now see us playing into the future. That's what we should be looking at.
And if we get to that position again of getting in the Premier League, we've got to be more ruthless with the squad, haven't we? We've got to say,
100%.
right, you go in and there's got to be churn, because you're absolutely right. You look at a club like Tottenham, who've just not churned enough through the years, and it's a real set of deadwood that's in there, really. Michael Brown, interesting point here. I hope the 49ers continue with the Rads or a policy of youth recruitment of the likes of Somerville, Joffrey and Onto drama, etc. As long term, it's the lifeblood of Leeds United going forward. Well, it's going to be really fascinating to see how, those particular players that you've mentioned, if we can keep them all, or certainly a few of them will actually.
There needs to be a balance, Brownie, doesn't there? There needs to be a balance because Michael's got a point, but I also think we did too much of that. Like we heard about all these great players that were coming into the youth setup, and some of them, never came through. We made a big thing about Lewis Bate, and the noises are that Lewis Bate will never play for Leeds United again now, and he's going to go out permanently, or another loan, and he'll be out a contract and he'll move on next summer. So, while we're signing players like that with the hope that they will develop, that's great, but we also need to supplement that with ready first team players, because the reason that we got relegated last season was because we still had too much of that. Sam Allardyce pointed towards it, Gracia pointed towards it as well, in that we didn't have a squad capable of dealing with the situation. Like, I know me and you have spoken about this in quite a lot of depth, but when we were desperate last season, just throw Matteo Joseph in, throw Sonny Perkins in. We had it before with Ryan Edmondson. We had it before that with Simon Johnson back in Premier League. Like, it doesn't work. Like, it works 1% of the time, if that. When you fall across a James Milner or a Wayne Rooney or whoever, like most of the players that come through academy football will end up playing lower in the leagues. Can you imagine if we'd have had what some fans wanted and you'd have had Ryan Edmondson, Alfie McCalmon, Robbie Gotts? All these are playing League Two football guys. Yeah. So you have to get that balance right.
Well, that's probably the bigger issue for Leeds as well, because obviously we had the O'Leary team which is a once in a century type of thing, where it's you get 5 or 6 homegrown players, academy players make it to the first team, and that's exceptionally rare. I agree. We've got to get our recruitment spot on. Hopefully, Hammond can get that sorted out. Andy, we have some excellent youth, but the board were too focused on resale value of young players and did not focus on first team quality. Absolutely. So obviously we're a few weeks away since the relegation. We've seen Victor Orta has now got a new job over in Sevilla. Sevilla. Yeah, and Radrazani is tweeting about Sampdoria again. That it really feels like a new page in the history of Leeds United. How are you feeling about it all now? Are you kind of excited to what the 49ers are going to bring? I mean, there's been some questions about their longevity in the project, and how ruthless they're going to be in terms of they're going to just kind of try and increase the value and then sell it on, which, look, if you increase the value, it means the product's better or has improved. But how do you feel about that whole thing?
I think it's funny you should ask this question in such a specific way, because I've been doing a bit of thinking with myself about football and how I feel about football in general. I don't know if you've had this. I don't know if the rest of you in the chat about it, but I found myself sat here thinking, like, what do I now care so much for? Because the sport that I love is very different, and the club that I love as a consequence is very different as well. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't love Leeds United as much as I've always loved Leeds United, but in terms of the reason that I get invested for it and the way that I feel about investing my time and emotion within it, feels a little bit silly, because there's this big cloud hanging over what is actually happening. And, being successful means that you're now lying in somebody's pocket more than ever. Like, it was never seen as a business 20 years ago in the same way that it is seen as now. So that's a, long-winded answer to what you're asking me, really. So I'm going off topic, but
no,
do you get where I'm coming from?
It's actually amazing, because this is exactly what's kind of been going through my mind about football in general, the lack of romance. Yeah. What we had with Bielsa, and the reason why that felt so special is because it existed out of that money chasing, all about, the bottom dollar. You know, it really
Yeah.
felt something special. And I feel like football is in real danger now of just going too far the other way. You know, you look at like the deals in Saudi Arabia and you see Ruben Neves, who should be at the pinnacle of his career, should be getting a move to a top Champions League team. And, you know, he's going to go play in Saudi Arabia. And it just feels like everybody can be bought. There's mercenaries everywhere. It's probably always, we know it's always been like that to a certain extent. But yeah, I'm struggling a little bit with it because I don't like the idea of we've got these new owners have come in and it's literally just to increase the value of the asset and then move on. It feels incredibly soulless if that's all it is. We need a bit of love. We need a bit of love. You know, it's a football club. It's a community.
Yeah. You know, football has always been about the emotion. If you take that away, you're going to start being left with a very poor product. You're going to be left with the shell of what it used to be and what made it have the money in the first place, especially in the Premier League. So it is really, really tricky. And you have to kind of try and disconnect the two. But the best clubs, Man City, I mean, for all the criticism that they get, they are fantastic at bringing the community together, at making it all feel special. You know, the way that they kind of absorb all the fan base within it and stuff. They've got it to a T, you know, what they've done off the pitch. And we know it's all sports washing and all the rest of it. But the facts are is that that is the top level of football. And if you don't like it in the nicest possible way, the best thing that you can do is go and support a non-league club. It really, really is, because that is the only place that you kind of start discovering this again. I see it when I go Park Ave, and I see it at the levels below that as well. They have fantastic communities, same fans. You see them every week. They get together and, you know, they socialise with the players like they did back in the day, you know, with the main players. Like, it's just different at the top level football now. But I'm going to try and give you an answer to the question. Like, for me, the 49ers don't make money, or the money that they want to make, without us being successful. And I think, you know, however we've ended up getting to this position, whether it now be through relegation and then the Championship or the Premier League, it's better than being with Radrizzani for another year. I believe that. It's a shame that it couldn't be within the Premier League, because I think this would be so much more simple. So much more simple. The sale had gone through 2 weeks earlier. The manager had already been in place. We'd be run completely differently now. Players wouldn't want to be jumping ship quite as quick. We'd still have, you know, bigger assets for the players that did want to leave. They would be worth more and all the rest of it. So, yeah, the job has been made a lot harder. I think we're 3 years further behind where we would be than if we'd have stayed up. I think it's 3 years, because promotion season and then 2 seasons to catch up to where we could have been if we'd have stayed in this year. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I think under the 49ers, done properly, if everything worked perfectly with the right manager, we'd have probably finished 10th to 14th. Yeah. Now it's going to take us 3 years to get back to 10th to 14th, because when we go back into the Premier League, we're going to have to re-establish ourselves again. So, but yeah, I don't think I can get any more excited about the Championship season that's ahead of us until I know who the manager is. And I start hearing some kind of noises about how we're going to play and the players that we're going to expect to keep and recruit. Because at the moment, we've just got nothing. And this is why I said to fans, like, we cannot be just thinking that we're going to walk this league. No. Like, no. Right now, like, with no noise and not knowing everything that's going on, and the fixtures being announced tomorrow, pre-season starts in 2 weeks, we would be lucky to finish top 10.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, we would. Absolutely. It's interesting what you mentioned about owners and Man City, and, you know, you look at, well, they're not non-league anymore, but Wrexham and Ryan Reynolds, you know, and the way they've kind of embraced the community and brought the, you know, it's not, yes, they pumped loads of money in, they had the biggest budget, etc., yada, 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 but it's not just that. It's the fact that they really bought into Wrexham, you know, and that's what you want to see from an owner. You know, I feel like Radrizzani at times tried to do, like, he tried to kind of, you know, with community stuff and whatnot. I feel like he tried to present it, but then, you know, towards the end when he's trying to hook your stadium into a deal, it doesn't really feel like that. I just hope it's not a very plastic experience. I just hope that there's a bit of feeling to it, because I think you do need that as a fan. Otherwise, you know, you might as well bugger off to non-league, to be honest.
Just employ the right people, Brownie.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
You know, it don't matter, you know, like, I work for Just Eat, as an example, right? Massive company, absolutely massive company. And their sole purpose with trading is to earn money. Everybody knows that. Yeah, like that's business. But that doesn't mean that every interaction that you have with that brand feels like they're trying to rinse you of money. It should feel like, you know, sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's exciting, sometimes they give you this for free, sometimes they do that. You know, that's, you know, whatever company you look at, Apple are a great example of that. You know, they have customers hooked because of the experience that people feel when they are part of that brand. Even though you know that you're paying more money for the same phone that would do another job with another platform, you still buy an iPhone. Yeah, because that's how the brand operates. And that's what you have to try and do as a football club nowadays. And that's what Man City have done. Yeah, they win everything and that helps. I get it. Yeah, but there's still a balance. Like Man City could go about it in a totally different way, but they've just got the right people. It isn't the sheikhs. The guy that owns Man City has been to 2 games in 10 years or whatever it is. It's the guys that are employed within Manchester City, the best of the best, from head of merchandising, sales, you know, media team, all of them are employed to make the club feel as great as possible, and the experience that you're paying for as a customer, as a fan, is as good as possible as well. That's what it's all about nowadays, because it's a product, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think as well it's compounded by the fact that this kind of feeling as well, the fact that we've just had 2 horrible seasons as well, which obviously just really kind of it kills your spirit, doesn't it, really, with the football? Because, you know, to go into games and think we're not winning today, and we're most likely going to concede a lot of goals, and it just drags you down inch by inch, doesn't it? And especially when there hasn't been all that stuff that, you know, we're talking about engagement, and when all that's been so, you know, misstep after misstep, and then complete silence. You know, I always thought when it was getting tough in the running is like, put a player up, but let's have some honesty. Let's have Brendan Aronson come out and say it's been really hard, but I care. Let's have something like that. You know, it's even like the Leeds Utd podcast they did. You know, even if they go on, and it's going to be a difficult conversation. It's not going to be, you know, my favorite colour's yellow. You know, it's going to be hard, but that's better. I think a bit of honest interaction like that can go a long way.
It was made worse.
We disappear into the night, and that's
100%. It was made worse by us having such great 3 years before that as well. And I don't want to take that away. I would never undo that. It's some of the best. Well, it is the best experience I've ever had as a football fan. So I definitely wouldn't undo any of that. But because we'd had such great interaction, we'd had such relatable players. We loved the manager. We loved the football. For them to disintegrate so quickly in that 4th season was just really, really painful. And I mean, I'd love to be a fly on the wall. I'd love to know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. I know we all have opinions on Patrick Bamford, but it's come out this week that Bamford apparently said in February was leaving because of how Mickey Mouse the club was being run behind the scenes. Like, what is that saying about what's going on? And again, I've mentioned this before on the podcast. You have to remember that these people are humans. They're just going to work. And if they don't want to be in their workplace, how are they then going to perform to their best standard at the weekend? And not only that, they're then playing against the teams that are the best prepared, that are the best quality in the world. And and that's why you see performances like Spurs, and you see performances like Palace second half and the rest of it, because that's, you know, there's fragility in them players as well. We can go through all that. But, you know, when the circumstances off the pitch, you know, they know what Radrizzani wants to leave. They know the manager's not going to be there. They know this. They know that the players are not, you know, that they've recruited are not right. Then when they do get injured, they've not got a proper substitute to back them up. If you don't think that Patrick Bamford would want another number 9 alongside him to push him, you're wrong. He would want somebody to take that burden off him. I'm having a bad day. I'm going to get subbed on 60th minute because I'm having a bad performance, but I'm going to get somebody that comes on that can do the job to the same standard as me. But he didn't have that for 5 years. Well, he did actually, Khmer Rouge, but you know what I mean. He certainly didn't have it in the Premier League. So, you know, anyway, sorry.
It was, I think it was absolutely rotten to the core last season. I think by the end, it was rotten to the core. And I'm just, so happy that Radrazani is actually gone and out of there, and that whole thing is taken care of. I mean, in terms of the 3 years under Bielsa, and I'm not going to do a retrospective on that for God's sake. But do you know what it was? When he left? Do you know when he got sacked and he went? One of the things I was most upset about was when you start to see all the little bits, all the little stories coming out about, or Bielsa going to a fan or replying to a fan's letter, or you'd see videos of him going and hugging a disabled fan, or it was all those little touches, and you were just like, wow, that was,
he did it all, mate.
Special. It wasn't just on the pitch. It wasn't just what happened on the pitch. It was a whole feeling and what it meant. And he knew. I mean, look at the stuff he says in his press conferences. About the game and where the game's heading and too much money, and he knows. He was the soul of that project. And everything around it was on periphery, compared to what he did and how he brought it all together.
I would love to know how involved he was with all that stuff, because when he went, it all stopped.
It did.
And I just don't, it doesn't add up to me. Like, how? Like, there's no way that he was having meetings with the social team, the media team, but it all stopped after he went. Like, it's crazy. Anyway, we shouldn't talk about Bielsa again.
We need a new manager. We have to move on, apparently, even though I don't really want to. I'm having a look. So, I mean, the manager search. Guys in the chat, get your comments in. Who do you want it to be? Gun against your head. Who you picking? I'm guessing most people are going to say Farke, I hope, anyway.
I think there's some good comments.
How do you think?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I just think there's some good comments, about the 49ers. I agree with what Michael's saying there, and Andy as well. There's so much potential. There is so much potential at our club, and we saw, a fair bit of that during the Bielsa days. We did, and we saw how quickly we can get behind him. We just need, it's easier said than done, but we need the right manager and the right playing squad behind or in front of that push that we can give them to then provide what we feel like we deserve on the pitch. So
absolutely. Just getting through a few comments here. Diggler, anyone who has played footy at any level has experienced playing a team where your defence is non-existent, knows how that is extremely frustrating and basically becomes impossible to attack. Yeah, absolutely.
It makes a fantastic point, though, So, like, we spoke about this again. This comes back to recruitment, but we go into that last season, on the back of conceding 80-odd goals or whatever, the record in Premier League history and whatnot. And the players in front of the defence look back and go, oh, shit, all of you are exactly the same players that conceded all them goals for us last season. All of you, apart from Rasmus, who's worse than the right back that were there anyway. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's wild, isn't it, when you think about it? It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think because this takeover's happened, I think it's almost kind of dampened down just how explosive and toxic it could have been, because it's been such a bad showing for 18 months or whatever, and the fact that there was no contact, we didn't hear anything about any updates or anything, it just made it worse. But I think it's that thing of now new owners, new potential. I mean, we're the powerhouse of the division. I think that's not being arrogant, but that's just look at our situation. Premier League money behind us. We're not in a similar situation. We're not in the same situation to Leicester, where they're still kind of tied up in stuff and losing a lot of players for nothing and that kind of thing. Southampton, obviously, they'll be putting plans together. But I feel like Leeds, if they get this right, can absolutely storm it. But it's Leeds United, and when do we ever do things in a straightforward manner? That's the worry, isn't it, Jace?
It just feels like it's hanging by a thread at the moment. And I'm the 49ers have still been involved with the club for a period of time. And it worries me that they've still been part of a lot of what's gone wrong, but you have to treat them they were the minority. They didn't have the final say. It was down to Rads. This is a new chapter. And we hope that as a big business that are interested in making money, that they're going to get this right. You know, they've got it right in the NFL with the 49ers. We have to have some sort of confidence that they're going to get it right with this. I do think there'll be mistakes. I think it'll be tough. I wouldn't be at all shocked if we don't go back up this season. For me, success this season would be to finish top 6. It would.
Yeah.
And hope that we can find a way back up at the first time of asking. But I would say definitely strap in. And the manager call is going to be the first big one, and we're going to have so much to say on it when that drops. I've just seen, having a look through the listings, Pablo Hernandez is coming at 33-1 now.
Yeah, so I thought, my goodness, can you imagine that? I'd send the fan base crackers, wouldn't it?
Oh my God.
You kind of would just be like, oh yeah, fine.
That'd be a right laugh.
Pablo, isn't it? It's Pablo. Come on.
Player manager in 3rd division of Spain.
Yeah. I see Diego Flores still up there as well. He's still.
We mentioned him to you a week ago, didn't we?
Still hanging around, isn't he? But yeah, Darren Moore up there, Carlos Corberán, obviously. I don't think that's going to happen. Graham Potter, like you say, Potter. Still, it's a bit weird with Potter, isn't it? Though, what's happening there? Because it's, I heard he was kind of linked with Bournemouth, and then that kind of faded
linked
away.
With Palace as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I wonder if what's going on there. Do you think?
I just think he thinks his stock's higher than that. Like these managers run a massive risk in taking a job that would be considered below them, because if it then goes wrong there, they can only then go backwards. Whereas at the moment, he's been sacked by Chelsea, who were basket case anyway. He could probably still get another top 10 job, I would say.
Yeah, you'd think, wouldn't you? You would absolutely think. I mean, looking at the other names, this is it. There's not really anything in expiring. Lee Johnson, God,
I'll freak out. Lee Johnson, no, absolute no.
When you text me that, I was like, oh my God.
Chris Wilder would make me freak out as well. That'd make me cry.
Wilder. Oh God.
Jonathan Woodgate's an interesting one. I can't believe not more noise has been made about him just because of the Leeds link.
Gallardo, can you imagine Gallardo?
Nuno would be a great shout, but he ain't going to come over here.
No, I don't think so. Knutson, what about Knutson? He's been what's going on with him?
I wouldn't imagine him taking a championship job. I see him same as Iriola. He's in the similar kind of mould. Were you going to ask me before I interrupted you earlier who I wanted or who I think it was going to be?
Possibly, but
you were going to go into a manager.
Tell us anyway.
Tell you anyway. Who I think it's going to be. I mean, it's like I said earlier. It's almost, it feels impossible to answer the question, doesn't it? Because Daniel Farke, he's had as much noise as Vieira, Corberán, and a couple of the others have had, and we can only believe what we're hearing, that they've got interviews this week. But I don't even know if that's true or not. I don't even know if we really know that. I think that the media outlets have just kind of picked the names out and said, yeah, they're coming for interviews this week. And Farke has been linked because of Stuart Webber.
Well, even like Phil Hay, because it's like he's very kind of possibly interviews, possibly going on this way. It's all very, it's not very concrete. It would suggest it's watertight.
Well, it makes sense because he's got championship experience and he's being sacked from Bundesliga. So it'd make sense that a club like Leeds would look like a manager like Farke.
Yeah.
But apart from that, there's nothing to really say that has physically happened. So Parker, makes a bit of sense as well. I really don't. Scott Parker's probably my least favourite. I just think he's horrible. I just think he's just a horrible person.
Don't like him at all. Do you remember there were a bit where they showed him and there was like, look at this amazing speech that he did in the dressing room, and I was just like,
it's a bit weaselly, isn't it?
Don't need
I'd rather have Gerrard and Vieira than Parker, and I know that Parker's got 2 promotions. I know he's got promotions on his wage. I just don't like him.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Yeah.
For me, out of the realistic, Daniel Farke, then I'm just looking at the names on the other screen. Corberán.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be happy with Raul. I really would be happy with Raul.
It would be fascinating.
I just think it'd be exciting. Yeah, and
it would be
interesting.
You never know. You never know what they got planned.
I don't want Carlos Carvajal. That's a name I really don't want. Ex-Sheffield Wednesday.
No. No, absolutely not. Do you remember when that story came out about Regis Labris and that?
Yeah, it's still linked, isn't it?
Director of football, like that was a thing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like, we're going to do this, and then nothing. Sam Allardyce. No, that should be saying Ralph Hasenhuttl.
No,
please, no
stop
more
it.
Red Bull nonsense, please. For goodness sake. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. I was thinking the Spalletti from Napoli. If he fancies another challenge,
that'd be a Bielsa appointment again. Though. I mean, people. You mentioned it earlier, and I heard somebody else mention it in another podcast. I think yesterday or earlier today. But the Bielsa appointment has definitely skewed a lot of Leeds fans' kind of expectations into what is realistic to get in this division. You know, Paul Eckenbottom as an example, Thomas Christensen, Simon Grayson. I'm just thinking through some of these managers we've had. Neil Warnock, Monk, Brian McDermott. They're championship managers, guys, that are realistic targets for us when we were in the championship and we're now in the championship again. Bielsa was not a realistic expectation. Now, we got him, but that is a one of a kind. And this is why we had that big debate the other day in our WhatsApp group about Bielsa being the... I want to make sure I make this clear what I mean. The best manager to have ever managed within the championship. Because that is up there with getting, not quite Pep, but Spalletti, Mancini. I'm trying to think of managers that you know what I mean? That's where he's at. So we are not going to... He's a one of a kind, and thank God we were able to have him for 3 years. You know, that's how I see that.
I did, just to punish myself recently, I read the match review by the Square Ball for his first game in charge against Stoke. It's kind of like so heartbreaking to read it because you're just like, none of us had a clue.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously some knew, but we're all like, what is this going to work? You know, and then it was just the best thing.
The comment I always say, it pops up from time to time of the Sky Sports ticker with the comment about Joe Allen. You see that, yeah. I think
so far back.
Mateus Click presses Joe Allen so far back. He's back at Liverpool or something like that. But it's so funny. Yeah, so mate. We were lucky to have it. That's how I think. So
pick a day then. When is it gonna happen? If you had to bet, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday?
Friday.
Do you think Friday? Oh, God, I can't go on like this till Friday. Oh my word! Tomorrow, please.
If you remember, last week, or was it the week before now when we got Hammond? It dropped late.
Yeah, I think it was last week, wasn't it? Yeah.
It dropped. I think it was 9:30 on Thursday or Friday. I can't remember. It was late though. I know it was late.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
So, yeah, a few comments saying Farke, not Vieira. Yeah. General consensus. Gail says no Parker, thanks. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, indeed. Good stuff. All right. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
We'll see what we get, Jace. Hopefully the next time.
Who do you think it'll be? Just before we finish.
I think it'll either be Farke or a left field choice. I really do. Yeah. I think
if you had to bet one way or the other, so left field or Farke, what would you say?
If I had to bet, I'd probably go Farke.
Would you?
Yeah.
I can just see the mic drop, mate, and the Leeds United kind of announcement, Twitter going absolute apeshit. Who's this? Never heard of him. We're going down. I can just see it already. Before anybody's even looked into the candidate.
Oh, God.
And if it's Raul, we'll be winning Champions League within 2 years.
My word. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. Guys, please like the video. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel as well for Leeds United and other content on our teams across West Yorkshire. We'll be back at some point to see what progress has made, see who's in charge.
As soon as the manager drops, Browney, what are you saying?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, let's do it. It's got to be done on it.
As soon as that manager drops, we have to be back here for everybody, I think.
We've got to be. Absolutely. Good stuff. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Jason, thank you for joining me, mate.
Welcome, as always.
I've been Stephen Brown, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.